Because descriptive epidemiology is so important so that we can examine the distribution of disease, whether that be by incidence or prevalence, let's spend a couple of slides reviewing what we mean by descriptive epidemiology. In this approach, in descriptive epidemiology, the rates of disease are presented according to characteristics of the population, commonly by person, so for example by age or gender or race, or place, or by time. A great example of this comes from Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Dr. Andy Beck, who has characterized the geographic distribution of pediatric asthma in Cincinnati. And what he's found is striking disparities across the neighborhoods in Cincinnati. This observation has led to a number of studies of factors related to these disparities. What is it that makes certain neighborhoods have higher asthma admission rates, for example, compared to others? And has also contributed to a number of public health and other interventions that are designed to reduce these disparities. Descriptive epidemiology often provides information to healthcare providers and public health agencies, and disease surveillance is a critical function of our local health agencies. So let's go through a few examples of descriptive epidemiology taken from the CDC's report on asthma in the United States. In this first figure, the prevalence of asthma is displayed according to a number of factors, including sex, age, race, ethnicity, poverty status, and region of the country. Note that by examining the data according to these factors, we may observe differences that prompt additional study in the form of analytic study designs. For example, when examining the prevalence of asthma by ethnicity, we see a dramatically increased rate among Puerto Ricans. This observation has led to multiple studies of environmental and genetic risk factors among Puerto Rican populations. You might also be surprised to see that the prevalence of asthma is higher in non-metropolitan regions, despite common perceptions. Here's another descriptive epidemiology example. This figure shows the prevalence of asthma by age and sex, and interestingly, early in life, the prevalence of asthma is higher among boys compared to girls. This changes beginning in adolescence, and by age 16 to 18, and then continuing throughout adulthood, the prevalence of asthma is higher among women compared to men. This type of descriptive data may prompt further research questions and hypotheses surrounding events, exposures, and other factors that occur during adolescence and may play a role in this change. Here's a final example of descriptive epidemiology that has directly led to both analytic epidemiology and public health action. This is a map displaying the age-adjusted death rates for malignant mesothelioma, a cancer of the lining of various parts of the body, frequently the pleura. Almost all mesothelioma is linked to exposure to asbestos or other similar fiber types, including erionite. If we look at this map, we see that rates are elevated on the coasts of the country in the Northeast and the Pacific coasts, likely due to occupational asbestos exposure in the shipbuilding industry or other industries that are located in these areas. What I'd like to draw your attention to is the northwest corner of Montana, where you'll see a number of counties with elevated rates of mesothelioma. This observation has led to the uncovering of a public health emergency in Libby, Montana. And if you're not familiar with Libby, Montana, I would highly recommend that you read some of the numerous articles that are available about this site. It is the site of one of the worst public health emergencies in the United States, and a truly sad story. But to summarize, Libby, Montana was the site of a vermiculite mine that provided for almost 70 years the majority of the world's supply of vermiculite. The problem was, and unfortunately, the vermiculite ore that was mined from the Libby mine was contaminated with amphibole asbestos fibers. In addition to the workers who were exposed, environmental exposure to the vermiculite and the contaminated asbestos that was in the vermiculite was occurred throughout the town of Libby through the application of this vermiculite that was taken from the mine and put in the homes and the gardens, used as insulation. It was put on the baseball fields, the high school track, and other locations throughout the town. And this exposure has now been linked to numerous cases of mesothelioma and other asbestos-related disease among residents of this town.